We'll just wait for some more people to join in and
I have to wear my mask because there's a mask law.
Sure, yeah.
But hopefully once we like move further from the town, maybe I can take it off.
Okay. We're just waiting for some more people to join, and then we'll start. We have Aqui Thami with us. Aqui is an artist, a multidisciplinary artist. Aki's saying hi. Aki's traveling, but she has made time for us. She's traveling with her sister library, the Feminist library. That is the topic of the talk. And she's literally traveling, and she's mid-travel. And yeah. So we'll just wait for some more people to join in and then we'll start. I'll just start with Aki's introduction. Aqui Thami is a multidisciplinary artist and academic based in Mumbai and belongs to the Thangmi community. She is the founder of Sister Library and Dharavi Art Room, which are spaces she uses for collaborative, community-based knowledge sharing and knowledge making. She's a member of the Bombay Underground, an artist collective that organized the first Zine Fest held in Mumbai, bringing together, for the first time in India, a large volume of self-published books and zines for the public. Sister Library is a crowd-funded, community-owned feminist library. It is the first and only of its kind in India. It is also a traveling library, and as we speak, they are in Sikkim currently. Aki, are you headed with the Sister Library to somewhere else, to another destination in Sikkim, or at the moment?
I'm traveling to Arunachal next to be
okay. So they are traveling to Arunachal next, and yeah, Aki will talk about Aki's practice uses DIY forms like guerrilla posters, photography, and zines as a means to challenge the status quo of knowledge production, distribution, and sharing. So she'll be talking to us about her practice, her community projects, her own practice, and how, yeah, her journey and her work basically. So and I think it is very important because she's been doing this over a long time, and it's not only, it's feminism literally seen in practice. And she actually creates spaces where people do come and interact and create together. And yeah, that it is really exciting for me, and cannot wait to hear from her. So Aki, you may like take over. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for a warm welcome, and I'm so happy to be here and so happy to share. I hope I'm audible. I have to
Yes.
wear the mask because I'm like literally in the middle of the town, crossing the town. So maybe once things.
We'll be having a bit of patchy network because Aki is traveling, as you can see. So, but I hope it will resume. Yeah, Aki, we can hear you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So to begin, because I'm traveling with the library right now, I would like to start by talking about the library. It's been around 8 years that I've been reading women exclusively, and the conceptualizing of the library began when I decided to read women. And when I began, I would, for a year, read women and consume every other media also made by women consciously. And it was a conscious re-immersion into women's works. And I did a year of that, and then like after a year, it got harder for me to like do music and films and other forms of media. But then I continued to read works of women exclusively, and as I collected works of women and started reading them, my collection grew, and my friends started borrowing works from my collection, and it was exciting to see how people were intrigued and they wanted to also read. Maybe they could see the changes that I was going through and how I was processing the world around me. And these close friends, so they started borrowing books from me, and then I started maintaining a tiny diary of the works that were being borrowed. And around that time, or slightly after, I started a book club called Reading Women Book Club, and it was a work where I invited women to come sit down, and then we read 10 books, and then we would meet and discuss every book, and then we would also make something around the book. So say if we read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, we would think about the work and then like make something like a poster or like something, and then like, or a poem or something. And by the end of the book club, like after we read 10 books, I put together a zine, and then like we made posters and we had a tiny exhibition at the space called What About Art. And yeah, it was fun. I could see that people did want to read women, and they were seeking women, and they were seeking like collective spaces. And that made me really happy because like, you know, I wasn't the only insane person, right? There was community. So yeah, that solidified my desire to build a space like this. And I think the next year I got an emerging artist award, and it was a good uh, sum of money. And the artist award allowed me to do whatever I wanted as an artist for my practice. So I could have invested in a good computer, or like, you know, rented a studio to work at, or like whatever. It was to support my practice, to seed my practice. I chose to use the money to travel with the works that I had to different cities in India. And the way I saw it was that I wanted to build a collection that was city specific according to how the city interacted with me and how I was able to interact with the city. So every city, I built a collection of 100 works and traveled to the city and took the library to a space which is not a conventional art space, so not a museum or a gallery, but like more an open space where people who would not necessarily interact with works like this would go to. Also not an academic space. So like, but not the like the chain coffee shop, like owned by regular people, a tiny space, things like that. And yeah, we toured all of the cities in India. And as I toured, I saw how the work evolved with the interaction that people had with the work itself and the community the work brought together, conversations that the work enabled. It was a great space. I met so many wonderful people. Yeah, after doing that for a year, I started really thinking of a permanent physical space because I got a lot of emails from people who could not make it to the library or were at the library for all the days but wanted to still read more, wanted to have a space where they could come back to and look at more works. And yeah, it again like energized me to step into like actually building a space. And obviously because of my social placement, I couldn't have imagined to build a space by myself. And I started thinking of alternative forms of building and making, and alternative forms of ownership. And community ownership is something that like really interested me because they keep saying, sorry about that, the chief minister's convoy is passing through. I feel like we live in such a capitalist world where everything is privately owned, that even a space that is owned together, uh, like made to exist by people collectively, is something that's radical in itself. And that's what we did. I imagined we would be able to actually buy a space because I was so much more positive and naive like 5 6 years back. And 5 years back, yeah, when we started the fundraiser, I went and looked at some spaces, some tiny neighborhood spaces like garages. And I asked them for how much it would come to, and then they said it would be a crore, which is I think 100,000 quid or something. But that would mean that there is a permanent physical space forever that is owned by the community. So I got excited. I jumped into it. I made a crowdfunder, and then I asked everyone that I knew to send monies. And then there were other people who I knew and who believed in my work, who were excited by it, and people that I did not know also who were excited by the idea of actually having a feminist library owned by the community in South Asia. And we collected quite a good sum, but nowhere near the goal that I had set. We collected 1%, less than 1% of the goal. But it was good enough. And so we had monies enough for us to pay rent for an entire year and start the space, do the space up, put the shelves up. The books were already there because I had been reading for quite some time, so I already had the books. All I had to do was like figure out the space, do the deposit. We did all that. There were so many hands. A lot of women came together to help put the space together, paint, shelving, like so much work goes into all of that. And then we collectively did it. And it was a happy, great space many people wrote about it, but immediately the day of the opening, there was a newspaper article that put down the address of the library in the newspaper, and my landlord called me, and he was furious, and he got complaints from the building, the society that the library was at, that the residents felt unsafe because anyone who read the newspaper would have access to their address, and they weren't happy about it. And so we had to leave that place, which is really sad because we did not get our deposit back. We had to undo everything that we did in that space. And the reason they said we couldn't get our deposit back was because we breached the contract by sharing our address to a larger public. And there are all these like nitty-gritties that, you know, that I learned from being kicked out of this space. And it is also kind of like really hurtful because you work hard to build the space, put it together, and everyone is celebrating because it's just come to existence, and then you immediately have to shut down and move. And so we looked for another space, and then I realized that it was so much harder to like find a space that is happy with having the term feminism attached to it. So everyone objected to it. They were okay with like, you know, a library. Like they'd be like, okay, a library, and what kind? And then I would tell them it's going to be a feminist library. All the works in the library are done by women. And so they immediately would be like, oh no, we can't do that. And this is in Bombay, in Bandra, which is like one of the safest neighborhood in India. Like if you want to be in a safe place in India and walk around by yourself as a woman, you would think of Bombay. And still, it was a struggle to build the space. And we looked for a few months and finally found another space. And then we moved into that. And we are in that space. It's been 4 years now. And it's a wonderful space. It is so great in that like it brings people from so many different communities together, irrespective of their class and caste backgrounds and race backgrounds. And yeah, we have been consistently doing a lot of work in the library. So films every month. We have a feminist movie night where we invite people to come and watch a film made by a woman. And we have community potluck, which is also really exciting for us because food is a very political space in India. Um, we live in a nation state that has banned certain food that is consumed by communities that are historically marginalized, and we still are marginalized. So it is difficult and a very political space, and it's people from very different socioeconomic and race and class and caste backgrounds can come together and sit and eat each other's food and talk about it. Food is also a space where I see women as being knowledge holders of, because especially in South Asian countries where that becomes the space where women spend so much time. So it's nice to see women who ordinarily may not have authority in any other thing or would not feel confident to share about any other aspect of their life, feel comfortable to talk about food and their practices around food. So yeah, that's a wonderful space. We also have a book club, which is the Reading Women Book Club. It's a global book club. If any of you want to join in, you just have to send us an email. We read one book every month and then we discuss. What else? We do so many things, but the past 2 years have been like even more exciting for us because we started a press. I got another art prize, and this one was an international art prize, and it was a really good sum of money. And what else, right? I had to make a press. So I bought a Riso machine, And because when I travel to Europe, I'm always excited by Riso and how beautifully like ecological it is. Everything that you make in a Riso machine can be composted because the ink that it uses is soy based. It does not require a lot of heat. The stencil it uses is made out of banana fiber, rice paper, so everything can be composted, zero waste. And for me, that fits very well with the feminist ethos. And so I had to bring it to India, of course. So I bought the machine and we started Sister Press. And I was also excited by the idea of having a space where women could print and make using the library as a resource center. And we did exactly that. Every fortnight, we would have an open access where we had, because of the pandemic, we had only 6 seats per session, but 3 of the seats would be reserved for women from Bastis like Dharavi, Ambajwari, and like other homegrown communities around Bombay. And 3 were open seats. I had to do this in order for it to be a nice, healthy space and not a space where I had to constantly interact with people from oppressor castes and class backgrounds. Because when we started, I would just do a open call for open access, and everyone that applied was an upper caste person going to a university, a design school, or an art school. And that is not how I had envisioned the space at all. But yeah, so we do open access there, and we also started publishing a feminist newspaper fortnightly. It's called Sister Times, and it is women centric. We do current events.
I think we lost Aki again. If you have any questions about her talk as like up until now, she's spoken about largely about the sister library and the work they have been doing and how they really got here. So please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A, and she's back. So I hope she'll connect soon. Please post your questions. You can post your questions in the Q&A, and yeah.
I'm back.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have her back. Yeah.
So sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
But that should give you a sense of the imperialism of the nation state that is India, because we have no infrastructure. The internet is terrible. Our airports are like 5 hours away on road. The roads are terrible. So yeah, hope you get a little understanding of how far away and why we call India the mainland. Right, so we make newspapers, which are women focused. We make zines every month, and every zine features a writer, a woman writer that wrote in a South Asian language. And yeah, it's also a space, you know, for people who've never made an artwork or are intimidated by even the thought of making, can come and learn about like the process of how you do it. And then of course, I'm happy to share my skills. And so that is Sister Press. We also did Sister Radio last year, the first edition of Sister Radio, which was a great space for me because I lived in Bombay during the pandemic. So you can imagine how terribly hard it was for me. Particularly because I'm indigenous, and then we have a history of distrust with the medical industrial complex because of how they've used indigenous peoples, how they have met against indigenous people. So it was a struggle, but also because we were at home, I was working on the food program in Dharavi to make sure that our kids in Dharavi are not starving. We had to make sure that they are being fed every day. So I was constantly involved in that work. And the lockdown in Bombay was extremely strict. We could not step outside of our houses even, and our houses are really small in Bombay. And everywhere I looked, I could not hear conversations around indigeneity, or even like how indigenous people are doing right now, conversations that were not manufactured by, say, a not-for-profit body or an institution or a university. And I just wanted, indigenous people like me to look at, and I did not see a reflection of me anywhere, nowhere. So I thought I should call my sisters, and then I started making the scare calls to my sisters from across the globe, and then we would talk for hours and hours and hours. And then I got to thinking, this is so life-giving, and more people should hear this. And it took a form of an audio work where I started recording these conversations and then shared it with people. So that is Sister Radio. If you are interested in listening to conversations of indigenous women and indigenous and Black women and Dalit women, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you find your podcasts. That was the first edition of it. I'll be working on the next edition this year. Yeah, that's the library. It is based in Bombay, and everyone is invited to the library. It's for free. Anyone can access it. You will meet different people there, people that you may not meet every day in your lives, or you would not consider to be people even. Yeah, and then we also travel. Like right now, we are touring the northeast of India with the intention of just building community and sharing the works in the library, but also like listening to women here, because the northeast of India has a great space of feminist activism and feminist resistance, but has never been given the due credit because of racism and how they do not even see women from here as human beings to start with. Yeah, and so I feel grateful and happy to be here, to be in community with people here, artists and makers and thinkers and women. And I'm excited also to bring back the works from these places back to Bombay, where people who come from across the globe can come and access these works. That is Sister Library for you. I'm happy to answer questions on Sister Library now, or I can answer them all together once I'm done talking about Ravi Ashram and Bombay Underground as well. Whatever you prefer.
You could do whatever you wish to, like however you wish to carry it on. We have one question. I did see another question, I guess from okay, but I don't see it anymore. So there's one question from Ikshaku. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it like wrong. Ikshaku says, hi, I have a question. Aki, thanks for sharing the difficulties you faced with making this space. Can you share some ideas about how you intend to retain sustainability of this library within the neoliberal framework that you so aptly identified? This is a challenge I am myself concerned with, envisioning any kind of pro-queer, pro-feminist space.
Right. I think that that I have may not be the right one, because we have to understand that context is extremely important. So the way I deal with conflict resolution and even the nature of conflict that we have as a feminist space, Just 1 second. The driver wants something.
Pay 2,000 here for the petrol. Totally, it would be like,
Can I pay by?
UPI.
I'm sorry. I just had to pay for the petrol.
यता पेट्रोलको सिधै हाल्दा हुन्छ हाम्रो सिधै पेट्रोलको पे गर्दा हुन्छ
UPI butter. I'm sorry. I have to do this. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the solutions that I have and even the conflict that arises here is very, very specific to the region that I am in and because of who I am. Had it been a caste Hindu upper caste, had it been a caste Hindu upper caste person, they would not have faced the same difficulties. And yeah, so I don't know if I have the space to answer your question, but yeah, but just keep persisting. I guess that's an advice that I can give you.
Gabby is asking, I was wondering how the open access sessions work. I think she's, Gabby, are you referring to like the library or the reading club?
Yeah, I think the open access sessions are with the press. So I usually make an announcement and we have 3 open seats for people who are outside of the community. I'll tell you about the Dharavi Art Room in a bit, and then you'll know how people from Dharavi Art Room come and access the library. And then 3 of the seats are reserved for people, for women from Dharavi or from other homegrown communities that the institute's called slums. So yeah, it's open for everyone. Whoever emails us, it's like the first come, first serve basis. If you
This is showing up.
just 1 second. Try now. Just 1 second. I'm so sorry I have to do this. Dinos. Why ni? Mon Chiring Lepcha भन्दैछ. Mon Chiring Lepcha हो? Sorry, I just have to fill some gas in the.
No, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, people email us and then we come and then like we sit in a circle and then every open access session she's a feminist role mother and then we learn about her. If there are books in the library about her, then we take that book out, read the book, talk about her. And it has always been the case that only like 1 or 2 people have heard of this role mother that we're talking about for that particular session. And so it's a great exercise for all of us to learn together and to reflect together on why even like is her name not there anywhere, like in history or like in any other space. That's how it goes.
Right. Thank you for answering, Aki. Those are the questions that we had. You could speak about the Dharavi Art Room now if you want. Yeah.
So the Dharavi Art Room is based in Dharavi. It's an artist-run center. It's a library and it's also a space for making. So it's open to only women and children in Dharavi. So I don't know. I keep saying Dharavi, but I don't know if you know what Dharavi is. Dharavi is one of the densest places in the world. It has, it's a tiny over 20 million people that live there. And it's a really, really dense and these are figures that are official, so obviously there is so many more people that live there, and every day there's an influx of people who come to Dharavi. It's a homegrown community made by migrants, but initially it was an indigenous space, so it was a Kolivara. By Kolivara I mean a space of the Koli folk who are indigenous to what we know today as Bombay. And it also, because it was a space of the Koli folk, the indigenous peoples, it was a space that the migrant community from everywhere felt the ease to come and settle down, because they did not feel the restrictions that would otherwise be imposed upon them had they been in any other spaces that were of the Castilian community. So usually these are migrants who come to the city to escape caste violence or racial violence or repression of that form. And it's a really busy, thriving space. Every house is a manufacturing unit. Uh, Everyone is super busy. They're really dedicated workers. They work hard. But you can also imagine that it's a space where there's so many people coming in every day, which makes it kind of unsafe for children and women. And so because of that, they do not really go out of their homes, especially women, because there isn't anywhere to go. So there are so many women in Dharavi who lived their entire lives in their homes. The only time they would go out is when they would go back to their village and then come back again to their homes and never venture anywhere else. And so art room becomes the space where they can go and just like, chill out and read a book or look at pictures, pictures made by kids, and just relax. There is no condition that you have to follow. We don't ask them to make anything, do anything. So it's just a space for them to come to, a space where they can go to without thinking of the risks involved, because there isn't any risk. And for the children, it's also a space where they can just be children, because there are many places for children in Dharavi created by not-for-profits, where you can go, but then you are always asked to do something like learn computers or learn to play the drums and do this and that, and like something that kind of creates a another burden upon them to have to perform. So art room isn't a space like that. The kids can just come and relax and just have fun and be children, because I feel like coming from a space of marginalization, I feel like we aren't allowed to be children. We aren't allowed to exist as children, and just, not have to tick someone's box all the time by just existing. So this is a space where, we have no data, we don't count anyone. It's our kids, we know them. It's like their family, they're a community, and it's always been like that. That is Dharavi Art Room. Dharavi Art Room now, though, because the kids who were really tiny have now grown up with us. Like the oldest one of our kids is 20, and he was a small kid when he started coming to the art room, and then he keeps coming back, and he kept coming back. He kept seeing us work, and then he wanted to be an artist, so now he goes to an art school. Two of our kids go to the biggest art school in South Asia. It's called the JJ School of Art, and now we have 6 of our girls that go to one of the biggest universities in South Asia as well. It's called Sophia's, which is so great because they are also first generation college goers. because they are going to universities now. The young ones also want to do it. So become a much more serious space, but we are also open to like allowing it to evolve the way the community wants it to grow. So for us, did I lose you? Okay, get there. Okay, no, like for us, we don't have like a plan that we have to adhere to, and these are our mottos, and this is like how we function. No, not any of that. So when we started, we were just like, oh, this is a space to have fun. But now everyone started taking it seriously because everyone wants to be an artist or wants to do this and wants to go to this college. So the kids are like motivated themselves, and we are always happy to help. So if they want to be an artist, of course, because I'm an artist, I'm happy to like connect them and of course use my resources. So like over the past 3 years, it has been like more focused, and like the classes have become like more serious, and we are like looking at like serious painting and like serious sculpture because the kids really want to do it. But there are also like a bunch of kids who just want to have fun and just want to play around and like, you know, make a mess and not get yelled at. That is fine. Like, you know, that is allowed. Or like kids who come with their tiny baby sisters because like you're a girl and you have to be a mother already, right? So they come with their babies and they just keep their babies aside and like just do, you know, kid stuff, jump around, and then like when the baby cries, they take the baby home or like to feed or something. So it's been that space and it's been a great space. It's super happy, it's super nice, but it's only for people in Dharavi. And we keep getting messages and calls by everyone requesting a visit. But the minute we invite an outsider there, it will really lose its meaning because then again, it will be a space where like people thought that as like animals in a zoo and this happens all the time. Like there is slum tourism happening in Dharavi all the time, and people aren't happy about it. But there's also little to nothing that they can do about people just taking their photographs. The other thing that has happened in Dharavi, Room organically, has been like this community archive that we've been able to create because of our work through the years. Everything that the kids part of the history of the community, and we did not think of it that way when it started, and when we just like, you know, would make things with the kids and then they would talk about, oh, there's a playground there, I go and play, and then like, you know, we do this here at this spot, and then my house used to be here before it was demolished, and then I moved inward further, like my house was demolished because of the metro line or like whatever expansion. So all of these things are like organic storytelling by the people in Dharavi, and it's not research grants. So like it's just people telling their stories. And then over the years, we have this like large volume of stories from the community. So it's like a community archive, and people actually do come back even if they're displaced from Dharavi. So like now Dharavi is like shrinking inward more and more because there's been a lot of construction around Dharavi, and Dharavi is like prime real estate because it's smack in the middle of the city, Bombay, and towards its right you have this place called BKC, which also used to be a home community a few years back, and it was demolished. There was a lot of violence inside it between the Hindus and the Muslims, and that's how it works in South Asia. And then like the ones who win are neither Hindus or Muslims, but like this multinational corporations who built like Microsoft offices and Bank of America and like you name it, Google, Facebook. And so these offices have come up right next to Dharavi. And so now Dharavi has like a metro line passing through, and there is a huge Dharavi redevelopment plan on the table for many years now, and it's funded by EU and all of that mess. So it's been shrinking, and people have been relocating. Their houses are being destroyed constantly, and then we do see people who relocate, children who go away from Dharavi, far away in a place because you can't afford to live anywhere if you lived in Dharavi, you'll not be able to afford to live anywhere in Bombay. You have to go far, far away. And then they come back whenever they can. They're slightly older, and then they come back and then they look at the works that they do and have done, and then they're like, oh, this is how my house used to be. Because, like, you know, the images of their houses or the way it's portrayed is from an outsider's perspective, and it's always like, you know, these poor, unhealthy children, or like, you know, violent men who drink and beat their wives, or like AIDS stricken, and like, you know, all sorts of like miserable things that one can come up with. And that isn't a healthy idea to grow up with as a child, or that isn't a healthy space to see yourself as. And so we really think that the community archive, that the works that the people in Dharavi have created for themselves, is really a great resource for them and for us. What else? Yeah, we have a festival that we do once every year. It's called ABCD, which is Art from Bombay's capital, Dharavi. And this is the time where we invite everyone, because the kids are excited to show their work. They are excited to show people their art room. Like, they love the art room, and then they want everyone to see it. And so we have a festival. It's a 3 days long festival, and the kids plan every detail. They are like, this is how it's going to go. This is how we are going to welcome people. This is what we are going to feed them. So they are in control. And yeah, and maybe it's happening. It's not happening because of the pandemic for the past 2 years. Because Dharavi was also under like a tremendously strict lockdown. It had like cops all over, because they imagined that if things go down in Dharavi terribly, then Bombay would be even more in like a worse state than it is now. Okay, I can remove my mask. Yeah, so sorry about the mask. So that is Dharavi.
No, okay, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about Dharavi.
Yeah. I would like to know that the stories that you were talking about, the kind of archive of the people, do you also like, is it like in print, or like, or the stories, do they like draw it or record it, or like what medium, or is it like just told? And how do you, like in your festival, do you also like bring those stories out, and how would you do it?
Yeah, it's a mix of like drawings and photographs, because it's much easier to like visually share. And we've also been doing like, especially with like women and girls, I think like orality is so important. So we have been doing like recordings and like going back and listening to stories, and like kids recording their grandmothers and mothers. We had like a film that the kids made, which was also shown as a part of the Venice Biennale curriculum a few years back, like 5 or 6 years back. And it was quite exciting, because we had this like entire panel here when the film was being shown there. We had a panel here of like grandmothers, mothers, and children. And people watching films there may have expected that the artist here would be like, you know, some person, but here's this like entire family, and then they are also watching the film together. And so I think that aspect is also important, where like, you know, there's orality there, there's talking and sharing. Yeah, so it's a mix. We also make prints and sorry, Bumpy Road. We make prints and zines as well. So yeah, it's a mix of different things.
Right. And lastly, I would like to ask that, do you think that, like, because you said orality is also very important, and this space has been bringing in women and children who are often exposed to an outsider's view, as well as difficulties they face in their own lives, and an outsider's very unhealthy portrayal of how things work in Dharavi, and so on and so forth. So do you think that orality, you know, it's literally like giving voice, and like it's like people kind of owning their own their narratives, or like speaking, and therein speaking becomes like quite important. And how important, like how does it tie in, say, with the rest in the space that you provide them? Because I think that what you said, that if it was not such an easy space that provided these people rest, and that like any other NGO or nonprofit would, try extracting some form, like irrespective of intent, would try extracting some form of like productivity out of these people. How do you think that kind of plays in for a place to be a place of rest, and then the people probably themselves, like, yeah. So if you could.
Yeah, no, like the outsider. It's always for the people in Dharavi. We never make it with the intention that, oh, it's going to go to this festival, we're going to show it for this exhibition. We always think of like, oh, we do this and then we share it with each other in Dharavi. And then if we have to put it out, if we are sending it somewhere, we make sure that everybody wants to put only the parts that they are happy putting out. And yeah, it's not as it's not as a response to what the outside world is doing to them. It's just for, and the stories are to them to share with each other. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
Yeah, yes. That does answer my question. We're almost at the end of this session, and I would really like to mention this, that this event has been conceptualized as a fundraiser, and we have unfortunately not been able to raise funds. So I request all participants to donate to Sister Library's fundraiser, which is for women workers in the Darjeeling tea plantations. And you will see the fundraiser link in the chat. We have put it out in the chat as well. And we're still taking questions. So if you have any last questions, we could take 1 or 2 questions. And yeah. Okay, do we have any questions? I do not. Okay, I do not think. Okay, is there in the chat? Yeah, we have put in the fundraiser. We have put in. Okay, Shoini says, thank you for such an enriching session. And Naomi says, this has been so inspiring and interesting. Thank you. I will donate to the fundraiser now and follow Sister Library with interest. Please do, please do. And I think we'll all join the reading club for sure after this. And hopefully, like, if you follow Sister Library, they often, like, Aki recently did an exhibition in London, and maybe there will be more exhibitions around places in Europe soon. So follow Sister Library for updates. And thank you so much, Aki, for being here, like literally traveling with the library and but still doing this. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are. And yeah, if you want to make any last comments or anything, yeah, please.
Yeah, send monies to the library. We need all your quid, because it makes a lot of difference. Quid is 100 rupees here, and yeah, please tell your friends to support us. We really need it. It's an indigenous women-run space. Yo, we need your money. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. It was lovely chatting. And if you have any questions that you want to ask me, please feel free to reach me on Instagram or email. Yeah, thank you for hosting this talk. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Aki. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.